Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Aravinda Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Aravinda Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyotir Aravinda. So, a couple of classes back, we talked about this quote which says that every judgment is so loaded with personal history that every judgment you make about anything is a confession. So, whatever judgment you make about your past is really a confession of the state of your being. And karma is nothing but unresolved past, which means that if you have an experience in your past which leaves a flavor of ouch in you, you don't like to think about it, it's unresolved past and it will have karmic consequences. So, if you want to really be free of your past, you need to, if you want to be free of karmic consequences, you need to resolve the past. You need to be able to clear your space so that you can look back on that past memory with an authentic smile, or at least indifference, but not a bad taste in your mouth. If it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, it's unresolved. So, what can really resolve your past? It's one judgment of the past which keeps it unresolved and leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But another perspective on the same past can leave another flavor in your mouth. For example, let's try this. We did this in our meditation class and yoga class this morning, but let's try it collectively also. So just shut your eyes and look back on a painful time from your past. And if it's unresolved, something about it will still leave a bad taste in your mouth. You don't want to go there. But look at your past through a magnifying lens such that you find moments of grace, that one unexpected call, that one turn of events, that's something that changed the direction that things would have taken. Look for them, find them, acknowledge them with gratitude. And if for some of us nothing comes to mind, at least gratitude that I went through so much, but here I am on my feet. Something took me through it and landed me on my feet anyway. Or the immense growth that I made while growing through the experience. Just acknowledge every point in the experience which creates gratitude. and feed gratitude in your being towards that past. Despite all my stupid, unconscious reactions and responses, something kept me safe anyway through those troubled times. And whenever you feel complete with it, slowly open your eyes. So, what did you feel when you thought of those instances with gratitude? Or did you find moments of gratitude? Something to be grateful for in that? And what did it make you feel? You felt a release? Yeah? A smile. So, whenever we go through difficult times, Mother actually says that in difficulty, much more of her grace is there than in normal times. But we are looking so much at the pain giving moments of that memory that we take the gratitude for granted. We see it, but we said, okay, that's okay, but I went through so much pain. So that pain sticks out and makes us look back on it with an ouch. But if we go down the memory lane and keep feeling grateful for those moments of deliverance, in one sense, we are resolving our past. When we can look back on that past with a smile rather than pain, to that extent, our karma with it is complete. So,
at that moment, you may not feel gratitude, but as you grow, in hindsight, you look at it, and at least for me, as I see my journey, if I would see it maybe after 6 months, the good in what happened, now I may see it maybe in a month's time, 15 days' time, the good in whatever is happening.
yes, you'll see the good in it, but nonetheless, if it's a very painful time, you won't look back at it. Most of us won't, maybe you will. Most of us won't look back at it as a happy memory, as something that I feel, I'll still feel okay, I went through it, grace was there, but I don't want to go there again. And I didn't like the fact that it happened to me. So, in that sense, it's still leaving a bad taste in my mouth. So, but if we practice gratitude consciously on a daily basis, we bring up those memories, we look for grace, and we consciously feed those moments of grace, it's possible that our judgment about that past can completely change. We may not look back on it as a bad memory at all. And when that happens, then we are complete with it.
What if a particular bad memory has left a particular emotion? Like we said last time, in the subconscious, the emotions go down, and then the same emotions pop out at any other random time. So that particular memory may go down into the subconscious, but then it may arise at a later point.
Yes, yes.
So you are actually going to have to deal with it again and again and again.
Unless, see, everything you think in the conscious mind leaves a samskar in your subconscious mind. So, if you make it a practice to bring up that memory and feed gratitude, the gratitude we are feeling is also going into your subconscious mind. Yeah, your subconscious mind is just blindly recording everything. So, if the pain created a negative emotional samskar in you, gratitude can create a positive emotional samskar about the same event. Yeah? So it brings us to the fact that we feel pain because we feel we went through something dark. It was troubled, it was dark. But so beautifully, Sri Aurobindo says darkness does not exist. Darkness is a limitation of our seeing, that all darkness is full of light, invisible to our seeing. Why? The light is the purpose it's serving. You're never given pain without it serving a purpose for you. But in that moment, if I don't know the purpose of the pain, I get overwhelmed. And very often I won't know the purpose of the pain till I'm quiet enough for the higher wisdom to reveal the purpose to me. But the purpose is there. So that's the light which is always there in every darkness. So Sri Aurobindo's words, our sense by its incapacity has invented darkness. Because our senses are incapable of seeing the light, it has invented darkness. In truth, there is nothing but light. Only it is a power of light either above or below our poor human vision's limited range. Clear, right? So even in that dark, troubled time, it was full of light, it was full of grace. But grace and light that I was incapable of seeing. Words from Savitri. A truth occult has made this mighty world. Occult is hidden. A hidden truth has made this mighty world. The Eternal's wisdom and self-knowledge act in ignorant mind and in the body's steps. The inconscient is the superconscious sleep. What a marvelous line. The inconscient in us, that which is very unconscious, is the superconscious, that which is superconscious in us, our God nature, that sleeps in our inconscient. All darkness is full of light. The inconscient is full of the superconscient. The inconscient is the superconscious sleep. And unintelligible is that which we can't understand, which is beyond our intelligence. An unintelligible intelligence, an intelligence we can't understand. So in Life Divine, he says, Sri Aurobindo says, what's logic to the infinite intelligence is magic to the finite intelligence. Because to the finite intelligence, it's unintelligible. We can't understand it. But to the infinite intelligence, that circumstances in my life should be as they are is logical. But it's a logic which is much bigger than our logical mind. So an unintelligible intelligence invents creation's paradox. Paradox is opposite, profound. An intelligence we can't understand creates all the contradictions and contraries present in our life. Spiritual thought is crammed in matter's forms. Unseen, it throws out a dumb energy and works a miracle by a machine. So in the Vedas, this human mind body is called a yantra, a machine. But this divine intelligence which uses every human body, every yantra, works a miracle by a machine. All here is a mystery of contraries. Darkness, a magic of self-hidden light. What a marvelous line. Darkness is a magic of self-hidden light. Darkness is also God, right? Because everything is God. And God has hidden the light that He is in that darkness. So it's a self-hidden light. Darkness, a magic of self-hidden light. Suffering, some secret rapture's tragic mask. Secret rapture is our God nature. That's wearing a mask of suffering. and death an instrument to perpetual life. All here is a mystery of contraries, darkness, a magic of self-hidden light, suffering some secret rapture's tragic mask, and death an instrument of perpetual life. Now we come to Mother's words. Mother says, one must have a great purity and a great intensity in one's self-giving, and that absolute trust in the supreme wisdom of the divine grace, and that it knows better than we do what is good for us and all that. Then if one offers one's aspiration to it, truly gives it with enough intensity, the results are marvelous. But one must know how to see them. For when things are realized, most people find it absolutely natural. They don't even see why and how it has happened, and they tell themselves, yes, naturally it had to be like this. So what Mother's saying is that when we are going through difficulty and we get out of it, we feel a little gratitude. I'm not saying for everyone, but human nature. And then we think, chalo, it's natural. It's natural that so and so should do this good to me. It's natural that this, and Mother says that a virtue which is least cultivated in human hearts is gratitude, because unless we are exceptional beings, it comes to us more naturally to take things for granted and say, yeah, it's natural that it should be that way. Very few hearts will have the capacity to feel gratitude for the different gifts that are given through us through different agencies. There was that beautiful story which Mother used to tell, that there was once a beautiful palace, and the king had invited all the virtues. So courage came all resplendent in a beautiful array. All virtues came. And there was one lady who was standing in tattered clothes in a little corner. And somebody asked us, who are you and why are you here? So she very quietly said, I am gratitude. I am cowering in a corner because human hearts seldom invite me to the front. Whatever I do, I'm forgotten and I remain in a corner. And this is so true for us if we really look. We'll receive so many gifts, but we say, big deal, take it for granted. So that's what Mother's saying. They tell themselves, yes, naturally it had to be like that. So they lose the joy of gratitude. We are the losers when we do that, because to feel gratitude is such a joy. And when we become ungrateful by nature, we deprive ourselves of that joy. So they lose the joy of gratitude. Because in the last analysis, if one can be filled with gratitude and thanksgiving for the divine grace, it puts the finishing touch. And at each step, one comes to see that things are exactly what they had to be and the best that could be. So beautiful. We see that things are exactly what they had to be and the best that they could be. And then we feel grateful for everything in our life. So, if we've practiced in gratitude, it's a good thing to start practicing gratitude till it comes naturally to us. And it's very subtle. It's again Mother's words, which we said last time also. At every moment, you have the choice between the height and the abyss. You have to choose. To choose between gratitude and ingratitude is also a choice. Somebody does something good to us, gives us love, gives us wisdom. It's one choice to say, yeah, it's okay. It's another choice to say, wow, thank you so much. And instead of, it's good to thank human beings, but Most of us are not grateful enough to the divine, and Mother's written about that in time to come. Mother says further, but there is another movement which should constantly accompany devotion. That kind of sense of gratitude that the divine exists. That feeling of a marveling thankfulness which truly fills you with a sublime joy at the fact that the divine exists. That there is something in the universe which is the divine. That it is not just the monstrosity we see. That there is the divine exists. That each time that the least thing puts you either directly or indirectly in contact with the sublime reality of divine existence, the heart is filled with so intense, so marvelous a joy, such a gratitude as of all things has the most delightful taste. There is nothing which gives you joy equal to that of gratitude. One hears a bird sing, sees a lovely flower, looks at a little child, observes an act of generosity, reads a beautiful sentence, looks at the setting sun. No matter what, suddenly this comes upon you, this kind of emotion, indeed so deep, so intense, that the world manifests the divine, and there is something behind the world which is the divine. So I find that devotion without gratitude is quite incomplete. Gratitude must come with devotion. So Mother says the most rich gratitude of all is gratitude to the divine. And she says this gratitude is not going from pole to pole, not grateful because divine did this or divine did that. It's a state of being that the divine exists, that there is something behind this monstrosity which we see all around us. There's something which is exerting a control. And Mother says to live with that is to live with joy. And she says gratitude is the shortest road to the divine. When you feel grateful to the divine, you're instantly close to Him. And there are people, whatever they go through, this is so much part of their fabric that everything is the divine, that they have an unconditional gratitude for whatever happens. I've quoted this story of Janina very often, but it merits context here. So Janina was given the charge of the nursing home by the mother when the mother was in her body. And once there was a storm in Pondicherry, and her whole nursing home was totally a mess. There was water, things had fallen. The next day, when somebody came to visit her and told her, "Oh my God, look what's happened." And she said that when I told Janina this, Janina's whole face lit up with a smile. And she said, "But all this is happening in the body of the Lord." So she was delighting even in the storm and the difficulties it brought her way, because she hadn't forgotten it's happening in the Lord, and the Lord is behind all this, and she could be grateful even for this, despite the inconvenience it would obviously cause her. So, yeah.
So once you have a certain connection to mother, you start viewing, and to share you view the world differently. But in the past, when you didn't have such a connection maybe, and you had a particular bad memory maybe, so you will at that point in time you want to develop gratitude.
No, of course not.
So how do you reconcile that now with the present?
Exactly what we did at the beginning of the class. Looking back, you can see that that too had to be. That too was part of the plan. Look for it. I'm not saying it will come to you instantly, but sit with it. See the purpose it served in your life. As I said, if nothing else, the fact that I went through so much and I'm here on my feet and I'm fine. So right, you didn't have gratitude then, sure, because you weren't exposed to Mother and Sri Aurobindo and the light. But now you are, and you can view the past through the wisdom you have at the present moment, and even that can help to change it.
I think also the gratitude comes when you think about how you dealt with it without realizing the strength that way of dealing happened, and you didn't know what was helping you.
Yes.
But in hindsight, when
But
you
she's
think,
saying, suppose I didn't deal with it well. Suppose she has a memory where she dealt with it unconsciously. Then obviously there is regret and guilt. But we have to realize that there is actually no place for regret and guilt. Mother has said that whatever you've done in the past, never indulge in guilt, because of all emotions, guilt is the most corrosive to your growth. Whatever happened had to happen, learn from it and move on. So to indulge in guilt and regret is pointless. Where you were at that level of consciousness, from that you did your best, and the divine knows it, and the divine isn't holding it against you. So we also mustn't hold it against ourselves. So lines from Savitri, just about this, how God is present in everything, and just thinking of that can fill you with gratitude. His laughter of beauty breaks out in green trees. His moments of beauty triumph in a flower. How beautifully worded that a flower is God's beauty triumphing. The blue seas chant, the rivulet's wandering voice are murmurs falling from the Eternal's harp. This world is God fulfilled in outwardness. His ways challenge our reason and our sense. By blind brute movements of an ignorant force, by means we slight as small, obscure, or base, a greatness founded upon little things. He has built a world in the unknowing void. His forms he has massed from the infinitesimal dust. His marvels are built from insignificant things. If mind is crippled, life untaught and crude, if brutal masks are there and evil acts, they are incidents of his vast and varied plot. Last time in Savitri, we read that beautiful passage of the mother where she said that it's like God is creating a play with himself. Remember, we read that he's staging a play where he's the audience and he's the actor. The actor part is us in our ignorance. The audience is the witness self, which is our higher self. The witness knows the whole script of the play. So the witness is not frightened, but the actors on stage, she says, we are enacting a play of which we don't know the script. We haven't practiced it. We don't know what we are going to say next. We don't know which character will pop in next. So it frightens us. But God, the higher self who's in the audience watching, knows the whole game. He knows where it's going to lead. He knows what purpose it's serving. So he just looks at everything with a smile. Therefore, there's that line in Savitri referring to the psychic being. A laugh was her response to pleasure and pain. Our higher self is just laughing at the play of it all. And Mother always used to be very humorous about everything because she didn't take things as seriously as we do. So, if brutal masks are there and evil acts, they are incidents of his vast and varied plot. His great and dangerous dramas needed steps. So here it says needed, dangerous dramas needed steps. So there was a question that What if there's a very painful memory from the past where I can't maybe forgive myself, or I feel I didn't come from my highest? How can that be undone? But here he's saying they are his great and dangerous drama's needed step. It was necessary. Hence it happened. He makes with these and all his passion play. A play and yet no play. So a game is played just for the sake of entertainment, but God's game is not just for the sake of entertainment. It's got a purpose, there's a plan, there's no randomness in it. A play and yet no play, but the deep scheme of a transcendent wisdom, finding ways to meet her Lord in the shadow and the night. So beautiful. There is a thought about Ramayana. We all know about Manthara, right? Manthara was Kaikeyi's maid who poisoned her mind to tell the king to send Ram into exile. So there is a story that Manthara was actually a Gandhari, a heavenly being. And the Lord was saying, I need to go on earth as Ram Avatar, and I need to go through this whole thing. But who will play Manthara's part? Because if whoever plays Manthara's role will be hated by mankind forever. So this Gandhari said, I will go, Lord. Never mind if people hate me, but if it serves your purpose, I'll be Manthara. So she came down, she took on the curse of being Manthara, and she played out her part, and we hate her. But we don't know the whole context that she was actually a heavenly being very dear to God who just played out the role that she did. So that's why these lines of a transcendent wisdom, the Gandhari say was the transcendent wisdom who was finding ways to meet her Lord in the shadow and the night. The shadow and night was the darkness, the role she assumed on human to be born as. But through all that, she was only finding a way to get closer to her God to serve his purposes. So in one of his aphorisms, Sri Aurobindo writes, the Titans or the Asuras are dearer to God than the gods because the Titans do his dirty work. Can you imagine? That wisdom which loves the Asuras more than the gods, because the Asuras are just fallen angels, right? They are just heavenly beings who, in the greater scheme of things which we can't understand, have taken it on their lot to do the dirty work on earth. So if we really understand this, we won't hate the villains in our life so much. We don't know in what context they could be the Gandhari who's playing Manthara's role in our life just now. So he makes with these and all his passion play, a play and yet no play, but the deep scheme of a transcendent wisdom, finding ways to meet her Lord in the shadow and the night. When man becomes a little wiser, he will not complain about anything and will take the things that the divine sends him as a manifestation of his all compassionate grace. The more surrendered we are, the more we shall understand. The more grateful we are, the happier we shall be. Mother says, from my earliest childhood when I was 5, my memories at 5, and for more than 80 years, I have always been surrounded with people who brought me an abundance of revolt, discontent, and then more and more so cases. Certain cases have been very acute and still are of sheer ingratitude. Not towards me, that doesn't matter at all, towards the divine. Ingratitude, that is something I have found very, very painful that it should exist. It's one of the things I have seen in my life that seem to me the most intolerable. That sort of acid bitterness against the divine, because things are as they are, because all that suffering was permitted. It takes on more or less ignorant, more or less intellectual forms, but it's a kind of bitterness. And yet, of all movements, the one that gives perhaps the most joy, an unalloyed joy, untainted by that egoism, is spontaneous gratitude. It is something very special. It isn't love, it isn't self offering. It's a very full joy, very full. So, the mother for us is the divine, she's saying one of the things that hurt her the most is ingratitude towards the divine. When things go wrong, when they don't go our way, when we go through pain, we have the option of becoming better or bitter. Na? If we become ungrateful, we become bitter. But if we have made gratitude our second nature, like Janina, a storm hits her nursing home, but instead of feeling bitter about the inconvenience it's caused her, gratitude is her second nature, it's a state of being. And she only grows through every hardship that comes to her. And Mother says, of all movements of consciousness, the one that gives you most joy is gratitude. So you're not doing anyone else a favor when you're feeling grateful. You are giving yourself the gift of joy, because we know how full we feel when we feel grateful. It is a very special vibration, unlike anything other than itself. It is something that widens you, that fills you. You know, in the Vedas, there's a mantra, Yo Vai Bhuma, that's Sukham, that which is vast, that which is Bhuma, that is happy. Nalpe, na alpa, alpa is small. Nalpe sukham asti. There is no joy in being small. When you're bitter and ungrateful, you shrink into smallness. You lose the joy of the vastness that gratitude brings you. It is a very special vibration, unlike anything other than itself. It is something that widens you, that fills you, that is so fervent. It is certainly, of all the movements within the reach of human consciousness, the one that draws you most out of your ego. So beautiful. Mother is so precise. One would not think of connecting gratitude as something that pulls you out of the ego. But why does she say gratitude pulls you out of your ego more than anything else? Exactly. Because the ego will always make you feel, I did it, so I got the reward. But if I feel grateful to the divine, automatically I'm thinking of the divine more and myself less. Na? So gratitude is something that actually pulls you out of the ego the fastest. And when it can be gratitude without motive, that vibration, basically the vibration of what exists towards the cause of existence, then a great many barriers vanish instantly. Mother contemplates the vibration of gratitude for a long time. When you can enter that vibration in its purity, you realize immediately that it has the same quality as the vibration of love. It is directionless. As I said, it's a state of being. It's not something from pole to pole. It isn't something going from one thing to another. It doesn't go from here to there, gesture from low to high or there to here. It is round gesture, simultaneous and total. I mean, it isn't something that needs the two poles in order to exist. It doesn't go from one pole to the other or from the other to the one. It's a vibration which in its purity is the same as the vibration of love, which doesn't go from here to there or from there to here, the two poles of existence. It exists in itself for its own delight of being. And what I am saying spoils it a lot, like love. Ultimately, gratitude is only a very slightly colored hue of the essential vibration of love. So beautiful. She's saying gratitude is only a slightly colored hue of the essential vibration of love. If one considers the life and action and heart of men as they are, one would have every right to be surprised at all the hatred, contempt, or at best the indifference which are returned for this immensity of love which the divine grace pours upon the world. For this immensity of love which acts upon the world at every second to lead it towards the divine delight, and which finds so poor a response in human heart. She's saying something very big here. She says if you look at life and action, one would have a right to be surprised at all the hatred, contempt, or at best indifference which are returned towards this immensity of love which the divine grace pours upon the world. For this immensity of love which acts upon the world at every second to lead it towards the divine delight, and which finds so poor a response in the human heart. But people have compassion only for the wicked, the deficient, the misshapen, for the unsuccessful ones and the failures. Truly, it's an encouragement to wickedness and failure. So when we see somebody who's failed and we have compassion for them, of course, provided that there is some core of wickedness in them which has led to the failure, then Mother says we are encouraging wickedness and failure, and we are saying such a terrible God, see what's happening to people. But we are not seeing the immensity of grace that is constantly saving people despite themselves. Once Mother said it so beautifully. She said, my way is never to reject and cut out. My way is to transform. Because if I took the Mahakali way of just cutting out and annihilating what was wrong, nothing would be left. But I don't do that. I embrace the universe as it is and I work on it to transform it. This is a very interesting passage. Mother was asked a question by a sadhak. Last time in the text it was said, those who have faith in a God, their God, belong to Him integrally. All the events of their lives are an expression of the divine will, and they accept them not merely with calm submission, but with gratitude, for they are convinced that whatever happens to them is always for their own good. The sadhak asks the mother, what is the difference between a calm and a grateful submission? Mother answers, a calm and a grateful submission. When you receive an order, you may carry it out with resignation because you have resolved to submit it. So you carry out this order without any joy or pleasure just very dryly and superficially, and you tell yourself, I was told to do this and I'm doing it. So the order could be dealing with a difficult parent, a relative, dealing with a difficulty at work. Okay, mother, you put it in my life, I'm going to deal with it, but I'm not happy about it. So that is resigned submission. I was told to do this and I'm doing it. This means that you do not try to understand and make no effort to adhere willingly to what is asked. This is resigned submission. You accept your fate, and if you do not complain, it's because you've determined not to complain. It is because of this determination, otherwise, you would complain, right? She's so practical in her writing and she gets to the heart of the matter so clearly. The other instance is of understanding why an order was given, of grasping its inner value and wanting to express what has been asked with all one's strength, with the knowledge and joy that it is something, perforce, that's bound to bring the divine closer and give you full satisfaction. Then you are happy, you are satisfied, and you collaborate. That makes a considerable, quite a considerable difference. So, one is you've heard at satsangs, you've read mother's words, accept, don't fight, see mother in that one. But you're in your lower nature where you can't see it. But you're following the order. Mother's told me to do this, I'm trying to do this, but I'm not really happy. The other one is where she says, when you're quiet enough to listen to your higher wisdom, and the higher wisdom shows you the exact purpose. Now, everyone can hate Manthara till a higher wisdom reveals to them that Manthara is actually that Gandhari who has just come to serve her Lord and to do his dirty work. Now, when you have that wisdom, you can't hate the person anymore. And then you serve that difficult person in your life without resignation, with gratitude. That, wow, you must be so great in your spirit that you could take on such a difficult work which God gave you to do in my life. But not because you're hearing it. If this arises from within you as something that your inner wisdom speaks to you, then you don't do it with resigned submission. You do it with happiness and with gratitude.
This holds true for people in our life as well.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
sometimes after even having this knowledge, you still hate them.
You hate them because it's not your knowledge, Param. See, you've heard me say it, you've read mother's book say it, but it's not something that your inner wisdom has made sense of it too. So, till that happens, it doesn't live in you. How to do that? It's a gift of grace, but grace wants to give you this gift if you create conditions for it. First of all, you have to be willing to give away your judgment. We are very possessive about our harsh judgments about the people we hate. We don't want to give them away. We feel right in hating them. But I really feel that hatred and anger, however right, is always wrong. Do you agree with me on that?
Will be grace when I agree with
Huh? What?
you. It will be grace for me when I agree with
Okay. So he's saying it will take grace for him to agree with me, but okay, you're a very logical person. Let's go by logic.
you. By logic, I understand.
What do you understand? Why is it always wrong? Hatred, however right, how is it always wrong?
Because it's just making me feel more harmful to me.
How?
Holding on to me.
Why? How are you harming yourself by hatred?
That emotion is what I am feeling, right? By the meaning.
So why is it wrong for you?
I don't like feeling.
Why don't you like feeling it? You feel right about it. Doesn't it give you a perverse joy in hating a person who's hated you? So why is it not good for you?
I don't have the solution. That is
No,
what
no,
I'm
I'm
saying.
asking you. You made a statement, you don't like it.
Logically,
No, logically, no. Not liking it is an experiential thing. Do you not like it?
Like, I don't like it post the hate.
But at that moment, you really like it. All of us really like that hate at the moment, right? You don't like it. Okay. Um, I'm going to share something personal with you. And so there was one instant in my life. Wait, I'll need my phone for this. Long, long ago. This was when I wasn't so firmly entrenched in spiritual thought, but I had just found mother, so it was very long back. And there was this very difficult person in my life, and I thought she had done something to somebody I loved dearly, and some which she hadn't actually done, but the appearance of life was that she had done it. And it made me hate her intensely. I mean, even those days, hatred didn't come to me easily. But I remember this was one time when I was furious and I really felt hatred for her. And on the heels of that hatred, suddenly there was an actual feeling of I'm not liking it. And when I listened to that feeling, the feeling spoke so beautifully that I was hating her enough to pray to the mother that, Mother, this is it. Now you really have to strike her down. That kind of prayer. And I realized that mother is the epitome of light and love and forgiveness. And I'm praying to the epitome of light and love and forgiveness to wreak vengeance. What am I doing? I am channeling vibrations which are opposite of mother, and channeling those vibrations, I'm praying to her and asking her. And how gracious mother is. I was on the road that time, but she gave me this poem which I wrote down. I'm reading it to you. And after this poem came, I could never hate anyone again for the rest of my life. The poem is called The Two Masters. Those who love serve one master. Those who hate serve another. If hate is returned with hate, and a flood is answered by an opposing spate. Spate is a flood. If one flood is answered by an opposite flood, the consequence is not just a quenching of a vengeful thirst. Larger than a deserved punishment's magnified issue, larger than even the question of justice due. She should be struck down, it's justice. But larger than even the question of justice due, it is a pledging of loyalties to the other master. As the offered knell is a bell of his disaster. The hapless instrument, while succumbing to hate, pauses at the edge of the perilous grey gate. The gate of the abyss or the height recalls the happy rivers of light that had coursed through and lent this same instrument its surreal hue. Cringing at the darkness momentarily allowed into the same space, recoiling from the rebellion that hisses at Savior grace, turning to its former master. Why former master? Because when I'm hating, mother's not my master anymore. Turning to its former master, mother, it says, make me once again a path of your sunlit ways. The target of the hatred loses its significance, the cause for the hatred its importance. Bold and clear gleams the message from the altar. Those who love serve one master, those who hate serve another. So what made hatred impossible for me was the realization that whenever I'm giving in to hatred, I'm being unfaithful to my master. I'm being unfaithful to the mother. And that's a price I'm not willing to pay no matter what anyone does to me.
But that's not the point I'm making is this came as a realization to you, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow I get angry and I think this. Apart from being angry, I'm also going to feel guilty, but that doesn't change the hate.
No, the
It
guilt
doesn't
guilt
change.
also has a purpose, no? Instead of indulging in the guilt, you put will into the guilt. You tell yourself, in hating, I'm being unfaithful to the mother.
Miss, but you realize you just.
And
I'm just
that
feeling
guilt
worse.
may, no,
I'm not.
try it out.
My
If
hate
you
is not
really
getting transferred.
understand this, it will transform the hatred.
Yeah.
This thought, it's a very powerful thought that when I'm hating, I'm being unfaithful to the mother, so I'm not going to feed the hatred. It's your will which is either feeding the hatred or starving it. At least that much you have. Hatred comes, but you have the will to feed it or starve it. Now, just the thought that in feeding the hatred, you're being unfaithful to your light will starve the hatred. Try it out.
Hatred. But the hatred coming is not in my control.
It's not in your control, but feeding it or starving it is in your control. Of course, you can't help it if the hatred comes.
What worked with me was when you said that would you hate like the mother's picture there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then gradually.
Yeah, but a lot of you keep telling me that we hear this, but even if I put mother's picture there, the person's irritating me so much, it doesn't help. It can happen.
It doesn't help at that point, but gradually it kind of takes away the hate.
Yes, it's a unique path for everyone. It's not the same.
After 10 times means if you want to build that thing, once at least you remember.
Yes.
And then at least you don't wish that person ill.
You don't wish that person ill because you're really wishing yourself ill. You're wishing the mother ill. There's never one good thought you put out there which doesn't come back to you, and there's never one bad thought which you put out there which eventually doesn't come back to you. It's what we said, no? Your thoughts are building the house around you. You have to live in that house. What we did last class. So the best possible way is to allow the divine grace to work in you, never to oppose it, never to be ungrateful and turn against it, but to follow it always to the goal of light and peace and unity and ananda. Few are those from whom the grace withdraws, but many are those who withdraw from grace. Then there are certain sutras on gratitude by the mother. Be grateful for all ordeals. They are the shortest way to the divine. So beautiful. Be grateful for all ordeals. They are the shortest way to the divine. Always joyfully accept what is given you by the divine. You can joyfully accept it when you're filled with gratitude. The nobility of a being is measured by its capacity for gratitude. So beautiful. What is noble? Noble is something that's willing to sacrifice itself for a greater cause. No? That's what the definition of noble would be. The willingness to sacrifice your interests for a greater cause. And nobility of a being is measured by its capacity for gratitude, because if I'm a very egoistic person, I can't be grateful. I'm not willing to sacrifice my interests for a greater cause. Then gratitude won't come easily to me. But how noble I am can be measured by my capacity to be grateful. For your heart to remain happy, keep it always filled with gratefulness. Gratefulness is the surest way to the divine. So beautiful. Gratefulness is the surest way to the divine. So,
Miss, if these things now, there is a question of sincerity which comes in, right?
yeah.
I've read this. I'm going to try and be grateful, cultivate it. It's not coming.
So I'm going to repeat your question. He's saying that there seems to be a clash between sincerity and gratitude.
No. I have read this now. and
He has read about gratitude.
Gratitude is not happening
Hmm.
naturally. I'm trying to do and be grateful, but I know while doing that, it's not a real gratitude.
Okay. So it feels insincere. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
So should you stick to sincerity or this? Because mother also said like, don't come to me like an angel.
Yeah.
Come to me the way you are.
Yeah. Come to me the way you are, but come to with me with an aspiration of a devil to be transformed to an angel, right? I might be a devil, but I'm coming to you with an aspiration that make me into something else. That aspiration I'm holding. So I am not feeling grateful. Fine. But mother has said, in the petals, gratitude is one of the petals. The petals are qualities of the psychic being. So mother has said you may not have gratitude on the surface, but in your psychic being, gratitude exists. So it's never completely accurate to say I don't have gratitude. It's more accurate to say I don't have gratitude in my surface being, the being I'm conscious of. But I have to have gratitude deep within. And I'm coming to you with ingratitude in my surface being, drawing on I want to draw on the gratitude that already is there in my deepest and bring it to the surface. So when you're practicing these things, you're not being insincere. You're drawing on the truth of your deepest. You're being honest. I'm not feeling grateful, but I want to feel grateful. And you've given me certain tools to find my way to gratitude. I'm going to use them. Rest is up to you and your grace. That's being sincere. Yeah? Okay, any questions about this? So then let's sit and let's assimilate. Or rather, let's think of how to really bring gratitude into our lives. So to be human is to suffer. The Buddha's first noble truth was the truth of noble suffering, where he said, all beings suffer. But suffering can make us better or bitter. When we are on the path, we will suffer. But the path calls on us to suffer consciously. Then the fire of suffering, as Tolle would say, becomes the light of consciousness. So if we look back on our lives and we find so many painful memories, if we recollect them and they make us feel an unpleasant taste in our being, our karma with that past is incomplete. Karma is nothing but unresolved past. But we can consciously resolve it. A beautiful practice is to go back into the past, look back through the painful memories, and find consciously moments of grace that delivered. That unexpected call, that unexpected turn of events, or just the fact that I went through so much but I'm on my feet. So much grace must have gone into that. So if we do this on a daily basis for 21 days, it's possible that at the end of 21 days, we can look back on that memory not as a bad memory, but a memory which brings us a smile or at least indifference. And when we look back on people in our lives who have caused us so much pain, how can we feel grateful for them? So it's beautiful to remember that Manthara, who poisoned the king's mind to send Ram into exile, was actually a Gandhari, a heavenly being. And when the Lord was wondering how will my plot be enacted on earth, Who will be Manthara? This Gandhari came forward and said, Lord, if it serves your purpose, I will do it. And he said, but you will be hated by human beings through history. And the Gandhari said, never mind what people think of me. If it serves you and your purposes, I'll do it. So the difficult person in your life at one level could just be a being who's agreed to take on this role in your life, agreed to make you hate and suffer so much that that suffering opens the doors to grace. So think of this difficult person in your life as the Gandhari Manthara, who's actually just an agent of God, who has taken on this task and who is actually so loved by God, because it is said that God loves the Titans. Sri Aurobindo says that the Titans are dearer to God than the gods because they do his dirty work. Just spend a moment feeling grateful to this particular mantra in your life. Think of those very painful moments that came to you because of her or him, that opened you to grace, that made you see that that outstretched hand is always there upon your life. Folding the hands together in a namaste. Take a long, slow inhalation. Breathe out with Om.